Sweet, savory Asian stir-fry gnocchi, you gotta give this a try. G'day friends, how's it going? Welcome back to Sam's Home Kitchen, where I bring to you budget-friendly recipes with sustainability in mind. So I was scrolling on social media the other day and came across this 100% flour gnocchi recipe. This guy made this beautiful chewy gnocchi in a very Italian way. So that resonated with some of the memories I have growing up in Taiwan. We have this thing called mian geda. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to recreate that, but with the Asian twist. And what is really cool about this is we don't need a pasta roller, we don't need special equipment. Basically, knife or a pair of scissors, and that is all we need. Obviously, I'm going to show you the recipe in the cheapest possible way. So if that is of your interest, keep watching and let's get cooking. So the start of the show today is obviously our noodles. That's what we're going to start with. And as always, we'll be working with the scale to make sure our ratio, flour, water, salt ratio is always spot on. Measure out 220 grams of flour. We use plain flour here to keep it as cheap as possible. My noodle dough, I like it to be about 45% hydration to keep it firm and not sticky. So that is about 100 grams of water here. Tidy up my mess and fingers in to start mixing the dough. At the initial mix, all we're doing is to roughly mix up the flour and liquid to get the flour drink up the water. Nothing more, nothing less. Once it looks like this, a bit of a shaggy dough with no dry flour left, we leave it rest for 15 to 20 minutes. I've been really loving having a backyard to grow. Some bok choy seedlings for about $3.50 has yielded us more than 10 to 15 meals worth of veggies. Beyond the yield, the freshness and flavour is just so incredible. And spring onions, I do not miss buying them. While the noodles are resting, we're going to start prepping our veggies. Because it's going to be a stir fry, our noodles are going to be about this big, so we want our carrots, onion, and even our bok choy to be about the same size. I started with carrots. Cut them in slices about 3 to 5 centimeters in length and into strips, keeping them a little chunky for some crunch. Put them aside in a bowl for now. Next, onions. For 2 portions, just half an onion will do just fine. Skin off and add it to the compost. Cut off the 2 ends. Make sure to keep the wastage as low as possible to be kind to our wallets. Thinly slice the onions up and into the bowl. Some garlic for aromatics. Use the side of the knife to crush up the garlics. Crushing it this way will help release the allicin enzyme and also make it easier to peel. Thinly slice up the garlics. Slices or garlic mince, either way is fine. It's been about 20 minutes. Come back to the dough and we give it a second knead. We should be able to work it into a dough. All should come together with a little bit of elbow grease. Second knead, still not perfectly smooth, but this is okay. As long as everything comes together, we will work on this and make sure it's smooth at our third knead. Last veggie to prep is my freshly harvested bok choy. Roughly chop it into 2 finger width chunks. Set aside for our stir fry later. Last but not the least, spring onions. To get some longer strips, I cut the spring onions at an angle. Protein wise, I'm using some offcuts from a piece of pork shoulder you might have saw in the last video. For tougher cuts like this, I like to cut against the grain to break up the muscle fiber. Cut it into strips and break it down further for thicker pieces into a bowl or container. Pinch of bicarb and pinch of starch. Top it with some water. What we're doing here is called velveting. It's a technique commonly seen in Chinese or Cantonese cooking. It tenderizes meat further, which works great for our cut of meat. Let marinate for about 10 to 20 minutes. All the cutting's done, we're going to put this away and work on our dough. Last knead of the dough, give it about 5 minutes and it should come together nice and smooth. Now, grab a large pot and load it up with water. On the stove on medium to high heat, we want the water on boil to cook the noodles. Now we have our dough. Rather than grabbing the pasta machine and churn it into the typical long noodles, grab a pair of scissors and we're going to cut it. Aim at the corner of the dough. We want to cut off about 3 to 4 centimeters long pieces of dough. The key here is to be consistent with the thickness so they will cook all evenly. Look at the shape of these. The little divots will catch on so much sauce and flavour. Once all done, into the boiling pot of water. Give it a stir to make sure they don't stick to the bottom. While the noodles are cooking away, we can get onto the stir fry. A wok or a large base pan on medium to high heat. Some neutral oil and our garlic in. Give our garlic a few seconds in high heat. Adding the protein. Stir up and cook until the meat strips start picking up some color on the outside. Next, we add in our onion. We can see now the little noodle pieces are floating. That's a sign that they are cooked. Keep them cooking for another 3 to 4 minutes to cook through. Next, add in our carrots. Mix it well. And we can now scoop the noodles into the wok. Some sugar, MSG, and soy sauce to season. Here's a little borrowed technique from pasta cooking. We're adding some noodle water to keep it thick and moist. Once our onion slices are soft, we can now turn the heat off and use a residual heat to cook through the bok choy. And that is about done. The cost breakdown is right on the screen here. One serving of our mian ge da is 79.6 cents. Alright, and there we have it. That is our mian ge da or Asian flour gnocchi all done right here. It's smelling really good. Going to dive in and just let you know how it tastes like. I just love the chew of this type of noodle so much. It just gives a really good texture. Obviously the veggies from the garden, super fresh, super flavorful. The velveting technique that I use on the pork, it's so simple, but just goes such a long way and makes the meat really tender. Just some bicarb soda, some starch, some water, give it some time to marinate and change up the pH. Just comes out super tender. A dish like this can be whipped up in 20-30 minutes and makes everyone super happy. Alright, that is all I got for you today. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give the video a like and consider subscribing. I have one of these videos coming out every 2 weeks. I'm going to get back to my lunch. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.